This is a poem because some characters are written in the old style. The content of the poem, of course, is very important. The calligraphy standard of all participants is also very important.
Taiji is nothing but contains everything in it. Taiji Quan, otherwise called shadow boxing.
Hey everyone, today we will teach you about Indigenous Australian culture. First, we would like to show our respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land.
It is really important that people acknowledge Aboriginal Australian people for respect.
My name is Hayder Jones.
And my name is Jacob Olsen.
And we are Aboriginal Australians. Often people wonder how to refer to Aboriginal Australian people.
Indigenous means native to a particular place,
while Aboriginal means inhabiting or existing in a land from their earliest times or from before the arrival of colonists.
Both words are okay to use, but in writing they must be capitalised for respect.
Here is a brief history.
Aboriginal people have lived in Australia for at least 50,000 years.
Before European settlement, there were over 500 Indigenous nations in Australia.
When referring to Indigenous Australian people, it is really important to use appropriate terminologies, such as Indigenous Australian people, Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islander people, and Aboriginal nations.
Less appropriate terms include Aborigines, blacks, coloured, the Aboriginal people, tribe, and native.
In the 1800s through the 1970s, the Australian public believed that Indigenous children were disadvantaged in their own communities.
The stolen generation is a term that describes the Indigenous children that were removed from their families by the government.
Here are some facts about Aboriginal people today.
There are 670,000 people that are Indigenous Australians.
And are 14 times more likely to be locked up in prison.
Only 3% of Aboriginal people complete a university degree.
And the life expectancy is 10 years less than non-Indigenous Australians.
Organisations such as Career Trackers and AIM are determined to create better futures for Indigenous youth.
In 2008, a campaign for Indigenous health equality was established. The Close the Gap campaign shows that significant improvements in the health, education and employment outcomes for Aboriginal people can be achieved before 2030.
Film, art, music and dance is a vital part of Aboriginal culture.
These are all different ways for Aboriginal people to tell Dreamtime stories.
Movies with Aboriginal content were rare before 1995.
Now there is over 10 movies made each year with Aboriginal content in them.
Plus a free-to-air National Indigenous television channel.
Art, it is an important part of conserving Aboriginal history. Traditional Aboriginal art dates back at least 30,000 years.
Music and dance has always been a part of Aboriginal culture. Aboriginal people traditionally imitate animals when dancing to the sound of a didgeridoo at ceremonies.
There are many Aboriginal people who are famous for a variety of reasons, such as sport, music and acting.
We now need to think about moving forward.
And create awareness of the issues.
More people need to acknowledge Indigenous culture.
This will then change the relationships between non-Indigenous and Indigenous Australians.
These will all contribute to closing the gap. Thank you for watching.
Buddhism is an essential part of Thai culture which has retained its significance in the modern world. In the second edition of Thai Life, we're looking at the fourth largest religion in the world. You'll also get to experience one of the most important days in the Buddhist calendar, Visakha Buddha Day. The monotonous chanting of the monks sets the spiritual tone for the festival, and the whole of Thailand comes together to celebrate the birth, enlightenment and passing away of Buddha. But this year's festivities are extra special. It's the 2600th anniversary of Buddha's enlightenment, and Thailand is getting ready to host devoted Buddhists the world over.
It's beautiful to see everybody in national dress and to come together in a cultural way as well as a spiritual way. And it's wonderful to see other traditions. There's other monks here from, I've just met some Cambodian monks, and there's Chinese and all different nationalities represented because we all come together with our heart for the Buddha.
Buddha, the awakened one, isn't worshipped as a saint but as a role model. And as the religion has no god, its keystones are personal and spiritual development. Followers are encouraged to learn and apply Buddha's practices to daily life.
Buddhism is a rather different kind of religion than the ones we're familiar with in the West. So if the religious traditions of the West could be characterized as belief systems, Buddhism is an education system. So it's a whole different idea of what a religion is and what it should be.
For Santri, Visakha Buddha is a precious time where the entire family comes together. And with her sisters-in-law in tow, Shantri sets off to the market to prepare offerings for the monks.
We offer alms to the monks. For fresh food, we have chicken wings. We also have Thai sweets and the traditional Thai soup, Tom Yam Goong.
Passed from generation to generation, the art of folding the lotus flower is an integral part of the preparations. Representing purity, the lotus is an important Buddhist symbol. Up since 4 in the morning, Shantri and her family head to temple in their best dress. Hundreds of followers line the path with tables of offerings, anxiously awaiting the monks' arrival from the Golden Mountain.
I feel very happy, very delighted. We've all come here as a family to attend the ceremony and to honour Buddha. I feel so good. We're all healthy and we think of our ancestors and share our happiness with them.
It's a symbiotic relationship. The people honour the monks with physical support like food and money, while the monks offer spiritual support based on meditation. This is at the heart of Buddhism, and it's fast becoming popular throughout the world.
Our life is one of such a busy, distracted life that we lose contact with the inner world. So when you let go of that addiction to thought and activity and allow the mind to settle down, often there are insights just popping up into your mind which were there already, but you couldn't really communicate with them or couldn't really hear them.
How to practice meditation, not difficult, easy. You can practice meditation everywhere, every time. When you're walking, you meditate on your, to keep mindfulness on your walking.
The highlight of the celebration is a candlelit procession where devotees walk 3 times around the temple whilst meditating, their right side facing Buddha to cleanse their souls. Our next report for Thai Life will take us to a very different world, the glamour and the glitz of the international movie industry. We'll go behind the scenes of the legend of King Nasuran and to a 3D movie studio to discover more about the Thais' love for cinema.
Und entdecken die Leidenschaft der Thailänder fürs Kino.
This feeling The Bajau rarely venture far from the coast. Their lives are spent fishing close by the mangrove swamps and the coral reefs. Here they find almost everything they need. The mangrove swamps are an essential barrier between the land and the sea. They protect the land from erosion which would cloud the waters of the coral reefs, killing the corals and with them all the animals that live there. And the rich, complex system of mangrove roots also provides food and shelter for animals and humans. The Bajau know many different fishing methods, but perhaps the most curious one of all is this one, fishing with kites. The technique they use is simple but very effective. It consists of attaching a hook to the kite, which is made from fern leaves, and with the help of a pole, the fisherman can move the hook as far out as he wants. The swaying of the kite keeps the bait in constant movement, attracting above all the flying fish. This fisherman is called Jared, and until 8 years ago he lived in Aleppo. Like many other Bajaus, Jared decided to join a government settlement and education plan. Now he lives with his wife and 4 children in this village of stilt houses called Torosiaji. The government tried to house the first families along the coast, but they were unable to adapt to dry land and soon returned to their boats. Then the Bajau suggested building the village over the sea, and so Torosiaji was born. Today it is a prosperous, well-organized community of 300 families who have electricity, a small clinic, a school and a mosque, and every year new buildings are added to this floating city. Though the greatest number of Bajaus live in Sulawesi, there are also groups of them in Myanmar where they are called Moken, or the people drowned by the sea. In Thailand they are known as the Chao Nam, or water people, and they can also be found along the coasts of the Philippines and Vietnam. Despite this diaspora and the enormous distances separating them, they have in common the same maritime culture, characterized by their profound knowledge of the seas. The mosque and the school are the only buildings in Torosiaji standing on dry land. Well, not exactly dry land, because they have been built on foundations made of coral. Though the government's main aim is that they should settle and the children should go to school, it respects those who have decided to preserve their traditional way of life. And every day a number of canoes sail out to the lepers to take the children of the nomads to the school. At low tide, the shellfish can be easily gathered. This is the time of greatest activity. Observing the seaweed, they know what day of the month it is. This is their natural calendar, which never fails. When the seaweed opens up to release the seeds, it is the 3rd day of the month. Between the 10th and the 15th, they again open. From the 16th to the 20th, they remain closed. and from the 20th to the end of the month, their color becomes more intense. At midday, the waters are very shallow, and this is when the Bajau comb the sea bottom in search of food. Their basic diet is fish and rice. The rice they buy in the markets on the coast, where once a week the women go to sell the fish they have caught and buy basic necessities such as fresh water. The most highly valued seafood is the trepang, a kind of cucumber especially sought after in China due to its curative powers, and which represents their greatest income, and these giant oysters which they conserve by smoking. The Bajau are also magnificent divers and can remain underwater for over 5 minutes and dive down up to 15 meters. To be able to remain so long without breathing, they use their stomach muscles to dose out the oxygen, controlling the air released from their lungs. When diving, they use small goggles, the glass of which is made from polished pieces of tortoiseshell. At dusk, the boats that have been out hunting come together again. These apparently fragile floating houses are made of wood from the api tree and are incredibly resistant, able to withstand an entire lifetime on the sea. There is virtually no space in which to move, so much so that the people have stunted legs. The kitchen is in the stern, in the middle the bedrooms and the larder, and in the prow the living room. Though it would seem impossible, an entire family of 5 members can live on a single boat. They may have very little living space, but the world that surrounds them is in constant change and movement, is open and free. When a child comes into the world, its father throws it into the water to initiate it into this marine environment. At 4 years old, the child already knows how to maneuver the leper, and by the time they are 7, they know all the fishing techniques. They live in such close contact with the sea that when they are born, they are given names that describe the surroundings at the time of their birth. Here we find names such as bird alighting on a palm tree that has fallen into the water, 3 black clouds in the sky, or eastern storm with strong winds. Like every day at sunset, the children of Toro Siaji go to the mosque to receive their Quran classes. The Bajau are Muslims, though they also practice animism and shamanism. Islam arrived in Indonesia at the end of the 18th century, introduced by Muslim traders from India. Nonetheless, they continue to believe in Pangroak Kampo, the spirits that control their world. Any happiness or illness is a reflection of their power. That is why it is important to keep them happy, so they'll protect you when the sea grows furious and will keep the world in balance. The day is coming to an end in the calm waters of the Gulf of Tomini. It is time for the Bajau to take their boats alongside the mangrove swamps where they will be protected. These nomads of the sea, like the immense majority of traditional communities on this earth, are facing immense profound changes. Little by little they are disappearing in silence, and with them centuries of wisdom forged and practiced over time. There is a Bajau saying that reads, "We conserve only what we love. We love only what we understand, and we understand only what we have been taught."
These islands scattered across the Pacific Ocean belong to Papua New Guinea, and they were not explored until the middle of the 20th century. Their inhabitants were reputed to be bloodthirsty warriors, fond of both decapitation and cannibalism. The European explorers preferred to leave the cursed islands well alone and not lose their heads. Today, there are still some tribes that practice it, above all in New Guinea. But we are in New Britain, and here nobody has the slightest intention of eating anyone. What they do is to keep their traditions alive. 2 young tolais are going to be subjected to the fish test, and for this they smear their bodies with green sap from the trees. In Papua, hundreds of churches have appeared, which try to attract the natives to their beliefs. Though they sometimes attend the ceremonies of these new imported religions, the Papuans remain loyal to their traditions. In the majority of cases, these initiations are painful. I hope it is rather more gentle than the crocodile men's ceremony, but I'm afraid they're going to whip them. They must withstand the pain without shouting out or grimacing. When I have to give blood, I go dizzy, so I look into the distance. they've done it. Overcoming the test means they have graduated to maturity. A woman puts a shell necklace around their necks. Protected by the spirits of the forest, they can now go fishing.
For sheer physical beauty, married to a fascinating food scene, few countries can match Vietnam. From the dreamlike landscape at Ha Long Bay, where rocky islands shrouded in mist emerge from the shimmering South China Sea, to the bustling food stalls of Saigon's Bintan Market, where the ripe, sweet scent of tropical fruit beckons shoppers to have a taste or just a whiff of durian, dragon fruits, and longuns. Vietnam offers a host of heady experiences that almost overwhelm the senses. Modern Vietnam is a country on the move. On the wide boulevards of Hanoi and the roaring motorbike metropolis of Saigon, scooters are as thick as molasses, carrying more passengers than safety might suggest and transporting cargo with immense creativity. Saigon, the country's commercial hub and nightlife capital, makes no secret of its ambition to be a world-class dining city. And on the back roads, in rural farming villages where rice paddies stretch for miles, travelers discover a land of vibrant beauty with a gracious people eager to share their country and foodways with visitors. By any measure, Vietnam today ranks as a top destination on Asia's culinary circuit. Here, in this land of noodle soup and banana leaf-wrapped snacks, the world's most enterprising street food vendors make sure that no one is ever more than a few steps from a delicious meal. Perhaps no other cuisine on the planet offers so many made-to-order foods and so many new sensations for the Western palate. Sweet, hot, sour, sharp, and subtly scented with fish sauce, Vietnamese cuisine may be the world's most healthful fast food. Certainly, Vietnamese people are almost uniformly slender, and many live to a ripe old age. Join author and chef Mai Pham as she guides us through the frontiers of flavor in her native Vietnam. Traveling from north to south, we will visit home and restaurant kitchens and tour artisan food factories to learn why these flavors are seducing so many food professionals and influencing so many menus back home. On this culinary tour, we'll shop the busy Bintan Market and learn what Vietnamese cooks do with the fragrant herbs, pickled vegetables, and tiny dried shrimp that pack these stalls. We'll see fresh coconut shredded into a snowy mound and meet other ingredients that make up the foundations of the Vietnamese table. And we'll explore rice in all its myriad incarnations. Steaming fresh rice noodles, essential for bún chả, Hanoi-style rice noodles topped with grilled pork. Paper-thin handmade rice sheets for wrapping the popular spring rolls and salad rolls. Sizzling rice flour crepes. And, of course, a Saigon street food favorite, sticky rice. We'll also take a master class in Vietnamese beef noodle soup, uncovering the secrets to simmering a perfect pot of pho bo.